I had a name once. I had a future once. I had a brother who swore nothing in this world would ever touch me. Then a man died. Then a knife was in my hand. Then a courtroom called me a murderer, and I had nothing. Nothing but a number stitched to my chest. Nothing but a uniform stamped with someone else's crime. Nothing but the silence of a country that had stopped pretending to forgive its children. My name was Lee Min-soo. I was 17 years old, and I was about to learn what hell looked like under fluorescent lights. The Republic of Korea had abolished the Juvenile Act. A child could no longer hide behind their age. In its place, a system. In its place, a building. A place they called the Rehabilitation Center. They said it was for healing. They said it was for second chances. They lied, but I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start where every story like mine begins. The night before everything ended. The apartment was small. 2 rooms, cracked walls, a window that didn't quite close. My brother stood at the stove cooking ramen. He always overcooked it. He never apologized for it. "You're studying late again," he said, without turning around. "Test on Monday." "What subject?" "All of them." He laughed. It was the last time I would hear him laugh for a long time. His name was Kang Yoo-sung. He was 23. He had raised me since I was 9. Our parents had died in a car accident on a rainy highway. Yoo-sung had been driving the second car behind theirs. He had seen the headlights flip end over end. He had pulled me out of school the next morning and told me I would never be alone again. He kept that promise for 8 years. He almost kept it forever. That night he handed me a bowl of ramen and ruffled my hair. "Don't stay up too late." "I won't." "Liar," I smiled. I went to my room. I opened my textbook. I told myself I would close my eyes for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes became 3 hours. When I woke up, my phone was vibrating off the desk. A number I didn't know, a voice I didn't recognize. "Lee Min-soo, get to the alley behind the convenience store on Hannam Row, now." "Who is this?" The line went dead. I should have ignored it. I should have rolled over and gone back to sleep. But the voice had said my name like it knew me, like it had been waiting to say it for a long time. So I went. A boy from my school went too. I will not say his name. He does not deserve a name in my story. He had been bullying me for 3 years. He had been waiting in the alley with 2 of his friends. They had been waiting for me. But that was not what I saw when I turned the corner. What I saw was him on the ground. What I saw was blood, a lot of blood. What I saw was a knife lying on the wet pavement beside him. I did not see who left. I did not see the figure step back into the dark. I only saw the body. I only saw the knife. I only heard my own breath turn into something that didn't sound like me. I picked it up. I do not know why. A voice in my head said, "Don't." A second voice said, "Pick it up. See if it's still alive." I have spent every day since wondering which voice was real. Because the moment my fingers closed around that handle, a siren cut the air. Lights flooded the alley. Footsteps. Shouting. A man in uniform tackled me into the brick wall. My head hit hard. I tasted iron. My hand was still on the knife. The body was still warm. And there was a phone 3 feet away from us, recording everything. The recording was uploaded before I reached the police station. By morning, my face was everywhere. The boy who killed his classmate. The monster who waited in alleys. The face of why the Juvenile Act had to be buried. They wanted a face. I had a face. I sat in an interrogation room for 2 days. I told them I did not do it. I told them someone had called me. I told them about the voice. They asked me why I had picked up the knife. I said I did not know. They asked me again. I said I did not know. They wrote it down, underlined it, showed it to a judge. I do not know. That is what a guilty boy says. I did not have an answer for that. The lawyer my brother hired was old. The lawyer was tired. The lawyer told me to plead. I told him I would not. He sighed and looked at the floor. "They have a video," he said. "They have a witness who heard you threaten him. They have a knife with your fingerprints. They have a country that wants a body to bury under a new law. You are the body, son." I do not remember much of the trial. I remember the boy's mother screaming at me from the gallery. I remember a witness who had never spoken to me in his life saying I had told him I would kill the boy. I remember the prosecutor saying my name like it was the name of an animal. I remember the judge's gavel. 3 syllables that changed the world. Guilty of murder in the 1st degree, sentenced to the Rehabilitation Center for a term of indefinite duration, pending evaluation by the Central Correctional Board. The room did not go dark. The room did not spin. The room just kept being a room. Pale wood, fluorescent lights, a bailiff at the door with a hand on his belt. And the country went on existing around me like nothing had been taken from it. But something had been taken from me. My name, my future, my brother's 8 years of work to give me anything resembling a life. I turned to find him in the gallery. He was not there. The bench where he had been sitting was empty. I thought he had given up on me. I thought he had walked away. I thought I would not see him again. I was wrong. I was so very wrong, but I would not learn that for a long time. They took me out the back of the courthouse in cuffs. The reporters did not let me through quietly. Microphones in my face, cameras at my chest, questions I could not answer. Did you mean to kill him? Do you have anything to say to his family? What does it feel like to be the first? I did not understand that last question then. The first? The first what? The van was windowless. I sat in the back with 3 other boys. None of them looked at me. I did not look at any of them. We drove for 2 hours. I tried to count turns. I lost count after 11. When the back doors opened, I saw a wall. A wall like nothing I had ever seen, concrete 5 meters high, razor wire on top, cameras every 10 paces, a sign above the gate, black letters. White background, Rehabilitation Correction Center, Region 4. Below it, smaller, almost an afterthought, for the building of a better republic. The gate slid open. We drove inside. The gate slid closed, and somewhere in the back of my chest, a child I used to be died, very quietly. The intake room smelled of bleach. A woman with a clipboard called my name. She did not look up. Lee Min-soo, 17, first-degree murder. Inmate 376. I started to say something. She held up a hand. You don't talk in this room. You don't talk anywhere unless I say so. Strip. I stripped. A medical examiner ran cold-gloved hands over my body. A guard cut my hair down to the scalp. A second guard handed me a uniform and a pair of plastic slippers. The uniform was gray. The number 376 was sewn over the heart. Over the heart, like a target. The hall outside was long. The hall was lit by buzzing tubes. The hall smelled of sweat and disinfectant, and something I could not name yet, but would learn to recognize as fear. The guard pushed me forward. Block C, he said. Cell 14. Welcome to your second chance. He laughed at his own joke. I did not. I would learn to never laugh at anything in here again. The first thing I noticed in Block C was the silence. The wrong kind of silence. The kind where everyone is listening, where everyone is measuring, where everyone is deciding what you are made of before you have crossed the threshold. There were 20 cells on the lower tier and 20 on the upper tier. There were 40 boys on each tier. 80 boys watching the new arrival. 80 boys deciding whether I would be useful or eaten. I walked towards cell 14 with the guard at my back. I did not look up. I did not look sideways. I had read enough of my brother's books to know what to do in a place like this. Do not look weak. Do not look strong. Do not give them anything to read. I tried so hard, but my hands were shaking and they all saw it. Cell 14, a bunk against each wall. A toilet with no door, a small high window with bars, 2 boys already inside. One on the lower bunk reading a paperback with no cover. One on the upper bunk staring at the ceiling like the ceiling had done something to him. The reader looked up first. He had a long scar from his eyebrow to his jaw. He smiled. The smile did not move the scar. 376, he said, reading my chest. Welcome to the family. He's mine, he said over my shoulder to the guard. The guard nodded and walked away. He shut the cell door behind me. The lock clicked. The fluorescent light buzzed. The boy with the scar stood up. He was taller than me by a head. He was wider than me by 2 shoulders. What's your name, 376? Lee Min-soo. What did they put you in for? They said I killed someone. Did you? I looked at him for a long second. No. He laughed. It was the laugh of a man who had heard every kind of lie a boy could tell. That's what they all say. Get on the floor. What? Get on the floor, 376. There's an order in this room. You are at the bottom of it. I did not move. He hit me once. I did not see it coming. I was on the floor before I understood I had been hit. My ear was ringing. My vision was full of stars. The taste in my mouth was the same iron from the alley. He squatted down beside me. That is how we learn here. You will learn quickly or you will learn slowly. Either way you will learn. He stood up. He went back to his bunk. He picked up his paperback. He did not look at me again. The boy on the upper bunk had not moved during any of it. He was still staring at the ceiling. He had not blinked. I crawled toward the corner under the window. I sat with my back against the cold concrete. I did not cry. I would not cry. The boy from upstairs spoke without looking down. His voice was thin and dry. Don't sleep on the floor on the first night. They walk on you. That was the first sentence anyone said to me in that center that did not sound like a threat. I would learn his name in 3 days. His name was Jae-hyun. He would become the closest thing to a friend I would ever make in that place. He would also be the second worst thing that would ever happen to me. But that comes later. That night I lay on the floor anyway because I did not know which bunk was safe. And I learned something I had not known about myself. I could be hated without doing anything to deserve it. I could be hurt by people who did not know me. I could be silent in ways I had never been silent before. Outside the cell, somewhere up the corridor, a boy was screaming. He screamed for almost 10 minutes. Then he stopped. Then nobody talked about it. That was the rule. You did not talk about it. You did not see it. You did not hear it. You did not exist in any direction that mattered. You only existed in the cell you slept in and the line you stood in. That was hell, I learned. Hell was a corridor. Hell was a number on your chest. Hell was 40 boys who had decided what you were worth before you had spoken, and I was worth nothing. The morning bell came at 5. A whistle followed it. A guard banged a baton against the bars of every cell as he walked. On your feet, 376. The boy with the scar said, line up against the door. I did not know how to line up against the door. I did it wrong. He kicked the back of my knees. I went down. He pulled me up by the collar, like this. He pressed my face against the bars. He arranged my arms behind my back. Hold. I held. Across the cell, Jae-hyun was doing the same. His eyes met mine for a single second. He looked at me like he was sorry for me. He looked at me like he had seen this before. He looked at me like he knew what came next. The cell door slid open. We marched in single file down the corridor. We marched into a large hall full of long tables. We were given a tray of food I would not feed to a dog. We sat where we were told to sit. We ate in silence. We were watched by guards on platforms above us. There were rifles on the platforms, real rifles. This was supposed to be a school, a center for children, and there were rifles. I learned 3 things at breakfast. 1. Doyoung ate at the table by the window. 2. Doyoung was the king of Block C3. You did not look at Doyoung unless he looked at you first. Doyoung was 18. Doyoung had been here for 2 years. Doyoung had killed his own father, the rumors said, and laughed about it in court. Doyoung had hair the color of dirty silver because he bleached it himself with chemicals he was not supposed to have. Doyoung had eyes that had stopped being a boy's eyes a long time ago. He looked at me across the hall once. He smiled the way a butcher smiles at a calf. He went back to his food. He did not look at me again that day. But I felt his eyes for the rest of the morning. I felt them on the back of my neck through every corridor. I felt them in every silence. I would feel them for the next 20 days. After breakfast, we were marched to a classroom. A classroom. That was what they called it. There were no books. There were no desks. There were rows of folding chairs and a screen at the front. A man in a tie stood beside the screen. He looked at us like we were animals he had been hired to count. Today, he said, we will learn the principles of rehabilitation. Principle 1. You are not children. You stopped being children when you chose to break our country. Principle 2. You have no rights in this room that we do not give you. Principle 3. Compliance is the only path. There is no other path. He let the words hang. Then he played us a video. The video was 30 minutes of success stories. Boys who had served their time. Boys who had come out reformed. Boys who now had jobs. Boys who now had families. Boys who smiled at the camera with eyes that did not match their mouths. I did not believe a single one of them. The boy in the chair beside me whispered, they make those videos with actors. I did not turn my head. Quiet. 376. I'm just telling you. Why? Because somebody has to. That was Jaehyun. That was the first conversation we had. It was 4 sentences long. It did not feel like a friendship. It did not feel like anything. But it was the first time in 3 weeks that someone had spoken to me like a person, and I held on to it. I held on to it like a coal in winter. I would need it. Because that afternoon was when they introduced the rest of the rules. And the rest of the rules were worse. Mandatory labor. Mandatory therapy that was not therapy. Mandatory evaluation sessions where guards beat you in a room with no cameras. And then there were the rooms that did not have a name. The boy across the hall had been taken to one of them on his 2nd day. He had come back walking with a limp he would never lose. I do not know what they did to him. I do not want to know. I just know that for 3 nights afterward, he made a sound in his sleep that did not sound like a sound a boy should make. I made a promise that night. I would not be taken to one of those rooms. I would not give them a reason. I would shrink. I would become invisible. I would survive. That was my plan. I lasted 6 days. On day 6, Doyoung came to my cell. He was not supposed to come to my cell. The guards were supposed to stop him. The guards did not stop him. The guards opened the door for him. That was how I learned the second truth of Block C. Doyoung did not run the block. The guards ran the block. And Doyoung ran the guards. He sat down on the lower bunk. He patted the mattress beside him. 376. Sit. I sat. The boy with the scar, my cellmate. The reader was nowhere to be seen. Jaehyun was on his bunk above us, completely still. "Welcome to Block C," Do-young said. "You probably noticed I run things here." "I did. Good. That saves time. Here is how it works. You work for me or you work against me. There is no third option. Working for me is easy. You do what I say, I keep you alive. Working against me is also easy. You do nothing. I make sure you regret it." He smiled. The smile was small. The smile was final. I felt the air leave the cell. I felt 80 boys above and below us listening through their bars. I felt my brother's 8 years of raising me press against the inside of my chest like a fist that had nowhere to go. And I said, "I don't want to work for anyone." The cells went quiet. The whole block went quiet. Do-young blinked. Then he laughed. It was not a long laugh. It was a short, dry sound that I would later realize was the sound of him deciding what he was going to do to me. He stood up. He brushed nothing off his uniform. He walked to the door. He turned back at the threshold. "You'll change your mind. I won't. You will. It will take a week. Maybe 2. And when you come back to me, 376, the price will not be the same." He left. The guards closed the door behind him. Jaehyun whispered from above me, "You should not have done that. I know. They are going to. I know. You don't know." He was right. I did not know. I learned over the next 12 days. The beatings began on day 7. They were small at first. A shove in a corridor. A tray knocked from my hands at lunch. A whispered word as I passed. "Dead man walking. Dead man walking. Dead man walking." On day 8, someone broke a chair across my back during labor hours. On day 9, someone dropped a brick on my hand from the 2nd tier. The brick missed, but the message did not. On day 10, 3 boys cornered me in the showers. I had no clothes, I had no weapon, I had nothing. They did not stop until a guard came in. The guard waited until they had stopped. Then he told me to clean up the blood myself. I cleaned up the blood myself. I walked back to my cell. I climbed onto the floor under my bunk. I closed my eyes. I tried to picture my brother's face. I could not. That was the worst part. That was the part I would not let them have. But on day 10, they had already taken it. On day 11, I stopped eating. Not as a protest, just because my stomach would not accept food. On day 12, Jaehyun came down from his bunk for the first time since I had arrived. He sat on the floor beside me. He held out a piece of bread that he had been hiding in his sleeve. "Eat. I'm not hungry. Eat. You are going to die if you don't." "Maybe that's better." He hit me. Not hard, just hard enough to wake me up. "Don't say that in here," he said. "They listen. They wait for you to say it. Don't say it. Why do you care?" He looked at me for a long second. He looked at me the way someone looks at a memory. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "Eat the bread 376. I ate the bread. I would learn who I reminded him of much later. I would learn it on a night when it mattered very much. But that night, I just ate the bread. And I went to sleep on the cold floor of cell 14. And I dreamed of an alley I had walked into once, and of a voice on a phone that had known my name, and of a hand stepping back into the dark. A hand I had not seen. A hand that had killed a boy I did not even like and made me pay for it. A hand I would find, I told myself in the dream. A hand I would find, even if I had to crawl through this hell on my belly to do it. I would walk out of this place. With my name. With my brother. Or not at all. That was the vow. That was the only thing I had left. That was the only thing I would not let them take. On day 14, everything changed. On day 14, a new guard walked into Block C. He was tall. He was broad. He had hair cut short the way the guards all wore it. He wore the same uniform they all wore. He walked the same way they all walked. He did not look at me. He did not look at anyone. He took his post at the door of the dining hall, and he stood there with his hands clasped behind his back the way a guard is supposed to. Anyone watching would not have noticed him. Anyone watching would have looked right past him. I almost looked right past him, but I did not, because my hands knew his hands, and my eyes knew his shoulders, and my chest knew the way he stood with his weight on the left heel. It was my brother. It was Yusung. It was Yusung in the uniform of the men who beat me every day. It was Yusung standing inside the gate that was never supposed to open for him. It was Yusung in the place I had not believed I would ever see him again. I almost stopped walking. I almost made a sound. I almost destroyed everything in the moment I saw him. He did not look at me. He did not look at me for one full second. And in that 1 second, I understood. I understood that if I made a sound, the plan ended. I understood that whatever he had done to get inside these walls could not survive recognition. I understood that the man at the door was not my brother in any way that we were allowed to admit. He was a guard. I was an inmate. And if either of us forgot that, we both died. So I walked past him. I did not look at his face. I looked at the floor. I took my tray. I sat at my table. I ate. And under the table, my hands shook so hard the spoon kept missing my mouth. But on the inside, for the first time in 2 weeks, something other than fear was alive in my chest. A coal, a small coal. A coal that I would carry through every corridor for the next 12 days without ever showing it to anyone. He was here. He had come. He had not left me. The next day he was on patrol in our corridor at lights out. He walked past my cell without looking in. He walked past Do-young's cell without looking in. He walked the whole length of Block C with the same flat, bored expression every other guard wore. He did not pause. He did not slow. But on his way back, when he passed my cell for the second time, his right hand brushed against the bars, and a tiny folded piece of paper fell through the bars. It landed on the floor near my feet. I did not move to pick it up. I waited until lights out. I waited until Jae-yoon's breathing on the upper bunk had slowed. I waited until the corridor outside had gone quiet. Then I reached for it. The paper was the size of a postage stamp. It had been folded so many times the creases were almost soft. I unfolded it under the blanket so the cameras could not see. Inside was a single line, "Stay alive, wait." That was all. 2 sentences. 3 words and 3 words. And it was the most beautiful thing I had ever read. I held the paper for a long time. I did not let myself smile. I did not let myself cry. I memorized the words. Then I ate the paper, the way he had taught me when we were children playing spy games on the apartment roof. I had laughed at him then for taking it so seriously. I did not laugh now. I lay back on the floor. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since the gavel had fallen, I slept all the way through the night. The next morning I ate my breakfast. The next morning I did not flinch when someone shoved me in the corridor. The next morning when Do-young looked at me across the dining hall, I looked back. For 1 second. Just one. But Do-young saw it. He saw it. And his smile got a little wider. I did not care. He could smile, he could plan, he could send his boys. I had something he did not have. I had a brother in a guard's uniform with a piece of paper that said, "Wait." On day 16, Yoo-sung found a way to speak to me. We were in the laundry room. We were folding sheets. There were no cameras in the laundry room. There was one guard at the door. The guard was my brother. He did not turn his head. He spoke without moving his mouth. "How are you? Alive? Eat? Yes. Do-young. Knows my name. Don't make him angrier than he is. He's already angry." A small pause. "How did you get in here?" "Doesn't matter." "It matters to me. I bribed an officer who got fired last year. He had 2 children. He needed money. He set up the paperwork. I am not Yoo-sung Kang in here. What are you?" "Officer Park." I almost laughed. He almost did too. We did not. Do they know? They don't know yet. They might find out. Then we need to be faster than they are. At what? At getting you out. I stared at the sheet in my hands. "Yoo-sung, don't say my name in here. Not even quietly. Not even to yourself. Sorry. It is okay. I thought you thought I had left you." Yes, I would die first. I closed my eyes. I folded the sheet. The guard at the door said nothing else for the rest of the shift. But when he passed behind me to check the next pile, his shoulder brushed mine for half a second, and I felt the 8 years he had spent raising me, and I felt them through a guard's uniform. And it was enough. It was enough to carry me through 6 more days. On day 22, I made my first mistake. I helped someone, a new boy, younger than me, 14. They had put a 14-year-old in Block C. He was crying in the corner of the cafeteria. He had spilled his food. He could not eat the food off the floor because the rules said you could not eat off the floor. But the rules also said you had to finish your food, so he was trapped between 2 rules. And he was crying. And nobody was helping him. I do not know why I stood up. I had spent 2 weeks being invisible. I had spent 2 weeks being smart. I stood up. I walked over to him. I gave him half of my food. That was all. I did not say a word to him. I did not even look at him for very long. I sat back down. I finished my own meal. I did not look at Do-young once, but I felt him look at me. I felt him look at me for the entire rest of the meal. And when we marched back to the cells, he stepped out of his line and into mine. 376. Yes. You feel like a saint today? No. Then why are you sharing food with strangers? Because he was crying. So nobody else stood up. And you thought you should? Yes. He smiled. Good. That makes my next decision easier. He walked back to his line. He did not look back. That night, Jae-yoon came down from his bunk again. He sat on the floor beside me. He did not look at me. He looked at the wall. They are going to do something to you. I know. Soon. I know. You do not understand what they do to people they decide to do something to. Then tell me. He did not tell me. He told me something else instead. I had a brother once, he said. I had a brother before I came in here. He came to visit me on my first month. He told me everything would be okay. He told me he would get me out. He told me he would die before he let me die in here. He paused. He breathed in. He never came again. I do not know what they did to him. I know what they did to me. They told me he was dead 2 months later. They said he was hit by a truck. My brother did not own a car. My brother did not even cross streets without looking 3 times. My brother did not get hit by trucks. They killed him because he was asking the wrong questions. I did not know what to say. I did not say anything. Jae-hyun stood up. He brushed off his pants. He climbed back to his bunk, and before he lay down, he said one more thing. Whatever you are planning, whoever is helping you, tell them to be careful, or tell them to stop, because in here, the only people who get out are the ones who pretend they want to stay. I did not sleep that night. I lay on the cold floor and I thought about Jae-hyun's brother, and I thought about my brother in his guard's uniform, and I thought about the way Do-young had smiled when he walked away from me at dinner. And I made a decision. I would not pretend to want to stay. I would not work for Do-young. I would not bow to anyone in this place, but I would also not be reckless. I would keep my brother safe. I would keep myself alive, and I would wait. I would wait for a moment, and when the moment came, I would not waste it. That was the new vow. That was the new shape of the old vow. I would walk out of this place, with my name, with my brother, or not at all. On day 25, they came for me. It was after the evening count. It was after the last bell. It was after the corridor lights had dimmed to half. 4 boys, 2 of mine, 2 of Do-young's. The 2 of mine should not have been with the 2 of Do-young's. That was the message. That was the point. Do-young had bought my cellmate. Do-young had bought the boy with the scar. The boy with the scar was the one who unlocked the cell door from the inside with a key he was not supposed to have. I had been asleep. I woke up to a hand over my mouth. I woke up to 4 shadows around my bunk. I woke up to a knee on my chest and a fist on my temple and a second fist on my mouth. They did not say anything. They did not need to. They dragged me out of the cell by my ankles. They dragged me down the corridor. They dragged me down a flight of stairs that I had not known existed. They dragged me into a room with no window, a room with concrete walls, a room with a single chair in the center, a room with a drain in the floor, a room without a name. Do-young was waiting in the chair. The 4 boys put me on the floor in front of him. They stepped back. They did not leave. They lined up against the wall like an audience. Do-young leaned forward. He put his elbows on his knees. He looked at me the way a doctor looks at a patient who is about to find out how bad it is. 376, Lee Min-soo. You have made me work for this. Most boys only need a week. You needed 3. I respect that, but I cannot show that respect publicly. You understand? I did not answer. I asked if you understand. Yes, good. He stood up. He nodded at the boy with the scar. The boy with the scar handed him a pipe, a short metal pipe, a pipe with rubber tape around the handle so it would not slip in a sweaty hand, a pipe that had clearly been used before. Now, Do-young said, this is the part where you change your mind. He swung. The first blow took my breath. The second took my legs. The third took my hands from my face. The fourth I felt in my ribs. The fifth I felt in my back. The sixth I felt somewhere I could not name. After the 6th, I stopped counting. I do not know how long it went on. I know that at some point I heard footsteps in the corridor outside. I know that the boys against the wall went very still. I know that the door to the nameless room opened, and a guard walked in. Officer Park, my brother. Do-young did not flinch. Officer, this is private. Carry on. I will need a minute of your time after. Of course, officer. Sir, Yu-sung said to Do-young. And he stepped back into the corridor, and he closed the door behind him, and the beating continued. I do not blame him. I want to make this clear. I do not blame him. If he had stopped it that night, his cover would have ended. If his cover had ended, both of us would have died within a week. He knew that. I knew that. I knew that even with the pipe coming down on my ribs, but I also know that on the other side of that door, my brother stood and listened to me get beaten for 10 more minutes. And I know that he had to listen to it. And I know what that did to him. And there are some debts in this world that you do not get to repay. That night was one of them. When it was over, they dragged me back to my cell. They did not return me to my bunk. They threw me on the floor. They walked away. The cell door closed. The corridor lights went back to half. The block went back to silence, and I lay on the concrete and I waited to die. I did not die. After a while, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I did not flinch. I did not have anything left to flinch with. 376, Min-soo, look at me. I looked at him. It was Jae-hyun. He was kneeling beside me with a small towel and a tin of something that smelled like petroleum. He began to clean the cuts on my face. He worked in silence. He worked the way someone works who has done it before. He worked the way someone works who has loved someone in a place like this before. Why? I whispered. Because someone did this for me once. Who? It does not matter. It does. Sleep, Minsu. Sleep. Tomorrow is going to be worse, but it was not worse the next day. The next day I did not get out of bed. The next day I could not. The next day the guard who came to roust us did not roust me. The next day the guard who came to roust us was Yusung. He stood at the cell door and he looked at the boy with the scar with eyes that were not a guard's eyes. He stays in today. He's fine. He stays in today 360, and if I see you near him again, you will not enjoy the rest of your sentence. The boy with the scar opened his mouth. He closed it. He nodded. He did not look at me for the rest of the day. He did not look at me for the rest of the week. And on the second night, when the corridor was quiet again, Yusung opened my cell door from the outside and stepped inside. For 1 minute, that was all. 1 minute. He sat on the floor beside me in his guard's uniform. He took my hand. He did not say anything. He just held my hand for 1 minute. And then he stood up, and then he left, and the cell door closed. And I knew then why I was going to make it out. I knew then what Jae-hyun had not had. I knew then that the brother who had raised me for 8 years had not stopped raising me when the walls closed in. He had only changed clothes. The next week I started to heal. The week after that I started to walk again. The week after that I started to think. I thought about the alley. I thought about the voice on the phone. I thought about the figure I had not seen step back into the dark. I thought about Jae-hyun's brother and the truck that had not existed. I thought about Do-young and the pipe in the room without a name. And I thought about something Jae-hyun had said the night before the beating. In here, the only people who get out are the ones who pretend they want to stay. I had not understood it then. I understood it now. The people who got out of this place did not get out by being good inmates. They did not get out by serving their time. They did not get out by being reformed. The people who got out of this place got out by becoming part of the system, by becoming useful to it, by becoming the kind of person it needed. That was what Do-young had been offering me, not protection, not survival. A place on the inside of the engine that ate everyone else. I had said no, I would say no again. But I was beginning to understand that saying no was not enough. Saying no was just dying slowly. To get out of this place, I needed to break it. I needed to know what it really was. I needed to know who built it. I needed to know what they used it for. And I needed Jae-hyun to tell me. I needed Jae-hyun to tell me what his brother had been asking questions about. On the night I finally asked him, he was very quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Are you sure?" "Yes. Once I tell you, you can't unhear it. I know. And once you start asking the questions yourself, they will come for you the way they came for him. I know. And there is no guard in this country who can protect you from what comes next." He did not know about Yusung. I did not tell him. "Just tell me, Jae-hyun." He took a breath. My brother was a journalist. He had been writing about the rehabilitation centers. He had been writing about where the boys from the centers go after they leave. Some of them go home. Most of them don't. What? Most of them just disappear. Disappear how? Their families are told they ran away. Their files are closed. Their names are not in any registry. They go in and they don't come out, but the country says they came out. Why? Because the country needs them for something. For what? He looked at me. He looked at me. The way someone looks at someone they have decided to trust with a knife. My brother was tracing payments from the Rehabilitation Authority. Payments to private contractors. Contractors that build things for the military. Contractors that build things the military is not supposed to be testing on people. Jae-hyun. That is what he was writing about. That is why they killed him. And that is what I think they are doing to the boys who disappear. I think we are not in here to be rehabilitated. I think we are in here to be used. The silence in the cell after that was the loudest silence I had ever heard. I do not know how long it went on. I know that when I spoke again, my voice was not my own. How long until our names come up? For some boys, it is 6 months. For some boys, it is 2 weeks. It depends on what they need. Are you on the list? I do not know. Am I on the list? You are 17. You are healthy. You have a clean record except for what they put on it. And you have no family left who is asking questions about you. Min-soo, you are exactly the kind of name they look for. I did not sleep that night either. I lay on my back and I stared up at the bottom of the bunk above me, where Jae-hyun had carved his brother's name into the wood with a fingernail. I stared at that name for a long time, and then I made a third vow. I would not walk out of this place alone. I would not walk out leaving Jae-hyun behind. I would not walk out leaving the boy who had cried over his spilled food behind. I would not walk out leaving the boy with the limp behind. I would not walk out at all if I could not bring something out with me that proved what was happening here. I told Yusung the next time we passed in the corridor. I told him in 3 sentences. He listened. He did not interrupt. He did not flinch. He just nodded once, the smallest nod a man can give and still call it a nod, and then he said, "Then we change the plan." To what? To something bigger than getting you out. How big? Big enough that they cannot bury it. Big enough that even this country cannot pretend it did not happen. Yusung, don't say my name in here. How long? 3 months. 3 months. I need 3 months to get the evidence out. Can you give me 3 months, Minsu? I can give you anything you ask. Then survive 3 months. Survive Doyoung. Survive the next intake. Survive whatever they have planned. And do not, under any circumstances, give them a reason to take you to the basement. What is in the basement? He looked at me. He looked at me the way a brother looks at a brother he has not finished saving yet. You don't want to know what is in the basement. Yusung. Stop saying my name. Officer Park. Yes. What is in the basement? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said the thing that would change everything. There is another boy from your alley in the basement. What? There is a boy in the basement. He came in 3 weeks before you did. He has a fresh scar on his right wrist that looks like a kitchen knife. He has eyes that flinch when the word Hanam-ro is spoken. He has been begging to talk to someone about a boy named Lee Minsu for 15 days. And the guards have been keeping him in the basement so he cannot. The hallway tilted. The floor tilted. The whole building tilted. I stood with my hand against the wall to keep from falling. That's not possible. It is. He's there. He is. He killed. I think he did. Or he saw who did. And either way, he is the only person in the world who can prove you did not. And he is 40 meters from you in this building. Yusung, 3 months, Minsu. You give me 3 months. I will give you the boy in the basement. I will give you the proof. I will give you a free walk out of this place under your own name. And I will give you whoever it was you were supposed to die for. He stepped back into the corridor. He resumed his post at the dining hall door. He did not look at me again that day. I stood in the corridor with my hand against the wall. I stood there for what felt like a year. And inside my chest, the small coal Jaehyun had given me on my first night became something else. It became a furnace. It became something I had not been allowed to feel for 25 days. It became hope. It became rage. It became a name I did not yet know. The name of the boy in the basement. The name of the hand I had not seen. The name of the person I would, one way or another, find. And so on the 25th night, when the lights went down to half, and Jaehyun's breathing slowed above me, and the corridor went silent in the way only this place could go silent, I did not lie down. I sat up against the cold wall. I touched the carved name above me on the bunk. I closed my eyes, and I said one sentence inside my head that I had not said out loud since the gavel had fallen. I said my own name, Lee Min-soo, and I said it the way my brother used to say it when he came home from work. The way a person says a name when they have not yet stopped believing in the person who carries it. I would walk out of this place. With my name. With my brother. With Jaehyun. With the boy in the basement, whoever he was. Or not at all. That was the vow. That was the only thing I had left. That was the only thing in this building they had not yet taken. And in the basement, 40 meters below me, a boy with a fresh scar on his right wrist was waiting in the dark. A boy who had a name for the hand I had not seen. A boy who had 3 months left to live. A boy I did not know yet. A boy I would, one way or another, meet. And when I met him, this place was going to learn what a falsely convicted boy could do. This place was going to learn what a brother in a guard's uniform could do. This place was going to learn what the ghost of the boy I used to be could do with 3 months and a furnace in his chest and nothing left in the world to lose. The corridor stayed dark. The cell stayed quiet. Da-young was asleep 4 cells down with the pipe under his bunk. Yusung was 3 floors up writing reports in a fake handwriting under a fake name. Jaehyun was breathing slowly above me, dreaming of a brother who had been killed for asking questions. And I was Lee Min-soo, inmate 376, the boy convicted of a murder I never committed. I was the brother of the man who would, before this was over, burn the gates of this place down. I was no longer alone. I had 3 months, and the clock had started.